Hi everybody. Okay, so we're going to talk about foilage. Okay, I know it's kind of a difficult procedure to do on a mannequin, so I'm going to try to show you as best I can how I want you to do just your basic application. Of course, when you do this on a person, you're going to take all kinds of things into consideration. It really is a lot of design decisions when you talk about how light we want it around the face, where does her side bang lay, what is that haircut that we want to accentuate, does she have long layers, all of that stuff. And then what kind of color are you going to put on top of that? Are we leaving it blonde? Are we toning it? Are we going to do fashion colors where we're melting purples and pinks and all that stuff? Or, so all of those things come into consideration when you actually have the client in your chair and you're trying to decide where you're going to put those highlights, lowlights, and medium foils, stuff like that. So, but for now, all I'm going to show you is a very basic foilage application. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here's a mannequin I did as a demonstration in the class, and you can see how we have some highlights in here and it transitions. There's a lot of natural brown at the root, and then we have that soft ombre effect where it is melting into a lot lighter at the bottom. I did leave some natural brown pieces in the bottom. Depending on your client, this may be solid blonde and gradually melt into your darker shades at the root. So it's just really, like I said, it's a very individual choice as to what your client wants, how light they want to be at the bottom. But the great thing about foilage is that you're going to typically have a darker shadow root, so it's easy on the new growth. It's not as hard to deal with when you're doing like your basic highlights and you have that sharp line here of where the highlighted pieces are and the new growth is. You're not going to have that because it's very, very soft. You can hardly see exactly where you put that foil. So it all blends and it's really, really pretty. All right, so let's look at this as a diagram. So I have another mannequin here that is already sectioned. You're going to do 5 sections. Okay, we're going to do our 4 basic ones. Okay, so all the way around you can see right behind the ear, parted down the center in the back. Okay, make sure these are symmetrical because if this one's wider than this one, then you're going to have, it's not going to be symmetrical when all of it lays down. Okay, so here we have our 4 sections, and our 5th section is just a very small triangle here at the front. It's our basic fringe area. Okay, and this is going to be our money piece, which typically is what we see a lot of, that's falling around the face right here is a lot brighter. Okay, so we're going to leave out that money piece. So we have our 5 basic sections here for foilage. All right, let's go to the board. All right, so on our board I have drawn those same sections. Okay, and here's of course the top view, the top of the head. You can see those 5 sections. All right, so what I want us to do with any lightning procedure is always start in the back. Okay, so we're going to start in the back and we're going to start in our nape area. So we would take diagonal back sections and we're going to take a whole section which is about 1 to 2 inches in depth from here to here. Okay, 2 inches at the absolute most. Okay, so what you have to consider is that the smaller these sections are, the more blonde your client is going to be. So that is up to you to decide how much hair is on that head. So we have to consider density, okay, and then like how blonde they want to be. So again, if they want to be super blonde, then maybe we want to do a 1-inch section, not a 2-inch section. Okay, so That's up to you. For our demonstrations, we're going to do a 2-inch subsection, or a 2-inch section, okay? So we're going to do diagonal backs. We're going to do these partings at the same time so that we know they're symmetrical. When you look at your head, we want to make sure that you're, let me do this one more time. Of our center part. Okay, and then we want to make sure that we're going at a 45-degree angle here into that center part, and that we're as symmetrical as possible. So this point should be the same on each side of the head, and then it should meet in the exact center. All right, so inside these sections, we're going to divide this into 3 parts, okay? So the 3 parts are going to be what we call a high, a medium, and a low. Okay, so my high is going to be here at the top. So at the top, I'm going to take my slice just like I would a basic highlight. Okay, I'm going to take my slice just like I would a basic highlight, and I'm going to weave this. Okay, I'm going to wrap that in foil, my woven part, and it is truly going to be a highlight, just a regular highlight. Okay, and I'm going to do this inside my foil the full length of the hair. Okay, just like a regular highlight. Then the hair that's left over here, okay, I'm going to divide that into 2 pieces. The way that I'm going to do that is by getting the whole section. I'm going to do a very large, deep weave. Okay, the hair that I pull up is going to be my medium section. Okay, so we're going to weave these 2 very deep throughout the remaining hair. Okay, whatever I pulled up here is going to be my medium application, okay, or my mid-length application. Then whatever's on the bottom is going to be my lower application of lightener, okay. I'm going to show you this on a mannequin, so just try to follow me, okay. All right, so I'm going to take this medium section, I'm going to tease it, and then I'm going to apply my lightener about halfway down. So if this is my section of hair, okay, and I'm doing my medium section, well, I want to lighten all the hair at least halfway up that foil, or the length of the hair, anywhere from like 3/4 to half of the length of hair. Okay, but I want to leave this out. This is going to be all my teased part. What's remaining here is my medium foil or mid-length foil that I'm putting that lightener throughout at least 3/4 of the length, if not half the length of the hair. Then my third foil is going to be down here, this stuff that's down at the bottom of this section, and I'm going to do another teasing that as well. Okay, let's go this way. And then my low is going to be anywhere from 1/4 to half at the most. So depending on what I did here for my mid-length, my lower length is going to be just the last few inches. Okay, so think always in consideration of what you did here. So you're going to have that highlight sitting here, then a mid-length, and then a low foil. Okay, so you always have to consider then, what does my picture look like? What is my inspiration? Does she want to be totally blonde throughout the ends of her hair, or do we want to leave out some natural brown? If we wanted to leave out natural brown or any, natural color that we don't highlight, we would leave out the low. We would not put product here. But for the sake of our assignment, we're going to do a medium that is 3/4 of length and a low that is about 1/4 of an inch. I mean, a 1/4 of the length of the hair. It'll make sense when I show it to you on thing, on the mannequin. All right, so then we would move, this is making me mad. Okay. Then we would move to this side and do the same thing that we did on this other side. We would weave, we would do a highlight, then we would take our deep weave, do a medium, and then we would do a low foil. Okay, so we want to work from side to side always and up the back of the hair. That way we're staying symmetrical. Okay, next foil is going to be, or next section I should say, is going to be about halfway up, straight across. Okay, now we're going to take this whole triangular section here, okay, and we're going to divide it into those same three. So here we would do our highlight and then our big weave. We would tease it, do a medium foil and a low foil. Okay, then we're going to go back up to the center of this and do another diagonal back section. Okay, so at this point we have 9 foils in the head. We have 3 over here, 3 over here, and 3 in that center triangle right here. Okay, now we're moving up. Again, highlight, medium, and a low. Then here, highlight, medium, low. And keep doing this. So we're working our way up. Now we're going to do here a highlight, a big weave, tease it, do a medium and a low. So we're just going to continue to work this same pattern all the way up the back of the head, straight across here, and then another one here, and then another one here. Okay, so by the time you're finished with the back, you should have, you know, at least, let's say 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. It's going to be a lot of teasing, a lot of working that product in there. Okay, so you see all those foils should be there. When we get to the sides, then we're going to work the same thing. We're going to work diagonal back sections from here to here. We only want about 1.5 inches. Okay, and all we're going to do differently is that our highlight is going to be here. Then we're going to do a big weave here. Then we're going to tease it. This is going to be our medium. This is going to be our low. Okay, and we're going to keep working in that same pattern, just diagonal back. Okay, then we're going to highlight this, deep weave. Here's our medium, here's our low. Highlight here, deep weave. Here's our medium, here's our low. Okay, so on the sides you might have 9 foils, you might have 12, just depending on the density of that hair. Okay, then in our triangular section here around the face is our money piece. So money piece is just that. This is where all the brightness and the real pretty stuff is, right? So we want to do a very fine highlight here, and I do 2 back to back with no spacing in between, so I don't leave any hair out between those 2 highlights. Then I deep weave this, I tease it, and then here's my medium, here's my low. Okay, all right, let's see if we can do it on a mannequin. Okay, for my supplies, I have my mock solution, which I just use conditioner. If you're out of gel, you can always use a cheap conditioner. My tint brush, my rat tail comb, which these are all different. You can use a weaving comb or a rat tail, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that this is pretty fine because you're gonna have to tease with this, okay? And then your foils, okay? I already have my mannequin parted. So again, I'm starting in the back and I'm going to do my diagonal back partings and I'm going to show you how I do a section. All right, so again, I'm going to do my diagonal backs. I'm going to make sure it's not too wide. Okay. I'm gonna pull this up out of the way, and then I'm gonna do this one at the same time so that I know for sure I'm doing them symmetrically. Because I don't want to have my highlight in a different place on this side than it is on this side. So I want to make sure I'm working side to side and doing them symmetrically. And so when I look at that, I can see that it's good parting. All right. Now I'm going to take this whole section and I'm going to over direct it this way. I'm not going to pull it back here and apply my lightener. I'm going to pull it over here and I'm going to work parallel to my parting. So parallel means that everything is going to go this way. So I'm pulling it towards me and I'm working off the side. So now I'm going to do my highlight, taking my slice, then I'm going to do my highlight, I'm going to weave it, get all that out of the way. And your high foil is just that. It's everything inside that foil from here down. So it's the entire length of the hair. And depending on how blonde they want it to be, you might do 2 highlights back to back. Okay, but we're just going to do one for our basic application. Okay, and I'm folding this all up nice and neat. I'm trying very hard not to get that bleach anywhere else. And I am just doing my basic highlight. Okay, then I'm going to have to steal this one. I'm going to pull this up very gently and clip it up out of my way. Okay, now I'm going to do this whole leftover section here. I'm going to do a very deep weave, and I'm pulling this up very chunky, okay? So here's my low, here's my medium or my mid-length application. So I have a high, a medium, and a low. And again, I have all of this together, and I went very deep into the entire section. And I'm going to do this as my medium or mid-length, and this is my low, okay? Whatever you decide your mid-length is going to be, do the same thing on this side. So if you stay 4 inches away from the scalp on this side, then over here stay 4 inches away from the scalp, okay, with your application. Now teasing. So to tease this, I'm going to go at least halfway down the hair strand, and I'm going to tease that and work it up. Okay. And all I'm doing is trying to soften this line. Where it was real chunky and bulky, I just want to soften that a little bit. So again, I can't tell you tease it 5 times. You have to decide when it doesn't look bulky and when it looks soft. Remember, this is the hair you're going to highlight or lighten, and this is what's going to lay down underneath this highlight. So always be thinking about that, evaluating that. Okay, I'm going to stay about 4 inches away from my scalp. I've teased it. Now I'm going to put my lightener. I'm also not going to put a straight line of lightener. I'm going to angle my brush a little bit so that I have a soft line there. The teasing is also going to help to not have a blunt line when you untangle all of this. It'll be a softer line. Okay? You could do this any different way. Sometimes I'll just fold it vertically like this, or you could fold it in thirds or halves. It's up to you. Just make sure that all this lightener is inside the foil. Now I'm going to pull this one up out of the way. Now I have my low section. And I'm going to tease it again. And honestly, you cannot over tease. Okay? All we're trying to do is soften this. Now my low application is going to be Let's do it. If that was 4 inches away from the scalp, now let's stay 6 inches away from the scalp. Okay? So I'm going to work down here. This is going to be my lower application. Okay? So I have my high, my medium, and my low. Do the same thing over here. My high, my medium, my low. And I'm going to stay, now I'm pulling parallel to my parting here. So again, I'm not pulling it back this way, I'm pulling it over here. And this is where I'm going to do this side. Again, try to think about what you just did and do the same thing over here. Here's my highlight. My medium's going to be 4 inches away from the scalp, and my low is going to be 6 inches away from the scalp. Okay, when I'm done with these two, then I'm going to go straight across. You okay? Now I'm going to go about halfway between here and here and cut straight across. This is going to be a horizontal section, but it's working in a triangle, okay? So let's do that. So we're going to pretend this is already done, okay? Let's just assume these have already been foiled. Now my next piece is going to be this triangle. Okay? So now I'm going to bring it straight back towards me. Again, I'm just going to go straight across. I'm going to do my highlight. And one thing I love about foilage is that it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be symmetrical, but it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So that's the main thing, is whatever I do on one side, I want to do on the other side. But as I work my way up, I can vary this. I could do a heavier highlight, I could do a finer highlight. I could vary even the mid application and the low application. I could leave some of the hair out in my low section. If they do want some natural in there, then I would just leave the low section out. You always want to do a high and a medium though. If you leave any natural out, then leave out your lower piece. So make sure you don't get any of the hair from anywhere else, just working in this triangle. So now I'm going to do my deep weave, pull this up, push that down. I'm going to tease it. I'm going to do my mid-length application, which we said was about 4 inches away from the scalp. Brush that softly so we break up that line, get it all done. Okay. And this one I'm going to do in thirds so you can see the difference. These I did long, lengthwise. This one I'm just going to do in thirds. So I would just divide that up into 3 and foil it. Fold it up just like a regular highlight, but I wouldn't do 4 like we do here. It's just folded 3 times. Okay, now my low piece, this is what I would leave out. If I want to leave some color throughout the length of the hair, then just leave this out. Just don't color it. Okay? But for our application, we can go ahead and tease it and then work it in there. And then I said our low was 6 inches away from the scalp. So there's our low. All right, and then I would just keep working up the back of the hair. Go back to your center part. Okay, now we're going to do another diagonal back that reaches here. And we're just going parallel to this one. So I'm coming up and working it this way. That's my next section. Get that up out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and section my other side too so that I know it's symmetrical. Working parallel from this line, from the center, going up. Make sure they're symmetrical, okay? And so now I would do a high, a medium, and low here, and same thing over here, a high, a medium, and a low, okay? And then my next triangle would be here. I would do a horizontal here, and then my medium and my low, and just keep working up in that same pattern that I showed you on the board before, okay? Your sides. Once we're done with the back, okay, we still have our money piece here that we want to do this last. And the reason I do this last is because it's the farthest and it's the most important piece. So I want to know that I'm not rushing, and when this is done, and I've foiled all the front and this is done, I can take my time and rinse this out, okay? And not over process the hair, okay? All right, so next I'm gonna do my sides, and again, I'm gonna do them symmetrically. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take my section, and I'm gonna do it on this side and this side. That way I know it's symmetrical. And unfortunately, you're just gonna have to work around your mannequin. I would never do all one side and then all the other side like we do our highlights. I would work back and forth, back and forth. Getting this money piece out of the way because that's the last thing I'm gonna do. Okay, and again, I'm going to do this side to make sure it's symmetrical with this side. And we're looking at the front to see how that's going to fall around her face. Okay, and that this is at the same spot. And now we're going to do our high and our medium and our low. Only difference is our highlight is going to be here. So our highlight's going to be at the bottom around the face. So this is our highlight. And it is going to mimic the hairline. Okay? So I can go ahead and get this out of the way. But I don't, oh, thank you. I don't want to lose this piece. So I'm going to have a separate clip for that. Okay, now I'm going to take my highlight. I'm always working parallel to my section. Okay, and when I weave this, okay, I'm going to make sure that this goes back into my previous section here. I'm going to put this out of the way. This is my highlight. Okay? So this is what I'm going to put around the face as my highlight. And again, this is a very large piece. I might do 2 foils here if I was really working on a person. But this is going to be that bright section around their face when they curl their hair and all that stuff. So this we want really fresh and pretty. And we do pretty much want a very fine weave around the face. We don't want it to be real bulky. This is actually pretty bulky, but you would want a real fine, soft weave around the face. Okay, and again, this is our highlight, so we're doing it all over from the full length of the hair. Okay, now we get the rest of this. And we're going to do our deep weave, and this is an odd shape, right? It's kind of a weird triangular piece, but that's okay. Just go in there and get a deep weave with it. Okay. Okay, and again, what you grab here is your low. This is your medium. Okay, so it's right behind the highlight. I'm going to do my medium, so I'm teasing that. And around the face, I want it to be a little brighter. So maybe I'm just going to stay 2 inches away from the scalp now. Rather than 4 inches away from the scalp, I'm going to get a little bit closer because I want it to be brighter and blonder around her face. So all these little teased hairs, we want those out of the way. Make sure you never get lightener on those. And make sure you're really working your product through and getting it all the way in there. Okay, so now your medium on the sides, right here where I want it to be brighter, I'm doing 2 inches away from the scalp for my mid-length, my medium application. Then I have my low. This is my low. So think about it. When this was highlighted and it's all laying down, you're going to see it really bright here, and then a medium, and then a low in the back. Okay? So try to visualize what you're doing so that you can see where that lightener is going to lay once it's all washed out. Okay? Now, again, I'm working parallel to my section, so I'm not pulling it here and applying my lightener. I'm pulling it here and applying my lightener. That's also going to give me that natural slant. When it lays down, it's going to fall back. Okay. And now my low. So I did 2 inches away from the scalp for my medium, so this one I'm going to stay about 4 inches away from my scalp. Okay, and there's my low. All right, now I'm going to move to the other side and do the exact same thing. Work on my highlight, make sure that's about the same weave as this side, what we just did. Then our medium is going to be about 2 inches away from the scalp. Our low is going to be about 4 inches away from the scalp. Then I'm just going to continue to work up the sides. I'm going to go to this side and do another section. Then I'm going to go to this side and do another section. So I'm probably going to have about 9 foils here when I'm all done. Okay, doing the same thing. Next is going to be my highlight right here, then my medium, then my low. A highlight, a medium, and a low. All diagonal backs on the sides. Okay, so now my money piece. And again, I'm working symmetrically from side to side. Okay, money piece, I'm going to do 2 highlights back to back. So I'm going to get this one really close to the hairline. And I'm going to do a very fine, fine baby, super close. This isn't going to work as well without my weaving comb, but we do want that pretty soft. Again, I'm going to leave this out. So I have a highlight here. that you can see is going to be right on her hairline, right on the, around her face. Okay, now what I took out, I'm going to foil this also, but I'm going to tease this, okay, just a little bit, just to soften that. But I am going to get this tease as close to the scalp as I possibly can, like it. So I'm breaking this up, but I'm getting it very tight and close to the scalp, okay? So my next teased highlight is right behind that one. Get all that out of the way. Then you're gonna apply your liner as close as you can without touching the teased part. You'll see people call this a teasy light. That's all it is. So I have a highlight, then I have a teased highlight with no hair left out in between. Now the rest of my triangle, I'm taking all of this, I'm doing my deep weave throughout that whole piece, okay? And I'm gonna pull the sides forward. So here's gonna be my medium, here's gonna be my low. So right here we did 2 inches away from the scalp. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna go 2 inches away. So I'm gonna tease this. And then I'm gonna do my medium, but I'm still gonna want it to be really bright around her face and on the top of the head. So I'm gonna go ahead and do about 2 inches away from the scalp. Make sure we're using plenty of product without oversaturating so that we know we got all those hairs in there, because the last thing we want to do is go to rinse this out and there's a chunk of brown stuck in there. So push it back and forth, make sure you got your product all the way through that entire section. And there's my medium, and here's my low. So this is that whole piece here. Tease it. And again, if this looks like too much hair, then weave it again. There's nothing saying that we have to, you know, you could always weave this again and do another section here and a section here. If it just is going to be too bulky and you're just going to end up with a big chunk of blonde, you don't want that. I would rather break it up. So if this was 2 inches, then I'd say this one's 4. Tease it. Let this one be 4 inches away from the scalp. Now your foilage is going to be a long procedure, so if you wanted to break it up into sections, that's fine. Let me see the back, then the sides, then the money piece. But I definitely want to see that you know how to do this application correctly, okay? This is your money maker right here. This is what everybody is asking for in the salon. Oh, once you've lightened the entire head with this procedure, you could do whatever you want. Like I said before, you could go back in. Once you've shampooed all the lightener out and blow dried it, you can go ahead then and you could color it all purple. You could color a dark purple and a lavender. You could melt pinks and purples. You could leave it highlighted and just tone it. It's just any number of things that you can do once you've foiled this way. So all we're really seeing right now on Instagram and all that stuff is this exact technique, but then they either tone it or color it. So, and if you'll just make sure you're over directing your pieces and really teasing, then you can't mess this up. You really can't. So, all right, well, have fun with that. I hope that I have explained this well enough. I would highly recommend you take notes, watch this video 2 or 3 times, and then get to working on your mannequin.